Mandolins are understandably one of the most feared pieces of kitchen equipment, and they have probably drawn just as much blood as most kitchen knives. However, they're not as scary as you think. I am here today to help you understand the mandolin and why you need one. I get it. A lot of people have been cut by mandolins. Personally, I've managed to escape blood-free, but we'll see how this video goes. My spouse has cut their fingertip off. Most of my coworkers that have worked in restaurants have jammed their hand on the julienne blades and done all sorts of nasty stuff. And so today I'm going to show you why you need a mandolin, which one you might want to get, and how to use it properly so you don't cut yourself. All right, so first up is the why. One of my favorite sayings in the kitchen is work smarter, not harder. And that's really where a mandolin comes in. Don't get me wrong, I've been that guy that likes to thinly cut every potato slice by hand with my nikiri. It's fun, it's satisfying, and if you have the time, it's great. But if you work in a restaurant or you are making Christmas dinner and you got a lot of food to prepare, time is money and you gotta get stuff done quickly. So a mandolin speeds up the process. It basically cuts things thin consistently fast. And those two things are really key, right? The speed is important, but so is the consistency. I can cut a potato for scalloped potatoes super quick with my nikiri, but I'm not gonna be as precise as a mandolin. So if you want uniformity, you want control, that's one of the areas where a mandolin shines. And like I said, the other one is just speed. You gotta make a big bin of coleslaw, you gotta slice up a whole bunch of onions, whole bag of onions for caramelized onions. You got a lot of salad to make. Now, when you're choosing mandolin, your choice of mandolin is gonna be about 50% of the safety. And it's as likely to determine whether or not you're gonna cut yourself as your actual technique using the mandolin. Basically, what you wanna avoid is a cheap mandolin. You want one with a fairly sharp blade. That may seem counterintuitive at first, but much like a kitchen knife, if your blade is sharp, it's gonna go exactly where you point it. Now that's important when you have a kitchen knife and you got your other hand over here and you're guiding it straight through your cuts because you don't want it to slip off the wrong way. That's even more important when you are pushing your hand towards the blade repeatedly. If the blade is dull, the carrot or the potato or the cabbage is gonna fight, and when it finally releases, it's gonna shoot off unpredictably. You want a sharp blade because it allows you to use less pressure and have more control. So I would avoid a cheap mandolin that just has like one setting, like the $10, $20 ones from the kitchen store or the grocery store, because they're not gonna be very sharp and they only allow you to do so many things. Similarly, I don't use the mandolin on the side of my cheese grater. And you know, food processor mandolins, they're fine, but again, they're very limited as far as the thickness of cut that you can do. So that's why I like a more traditional mandolin, because it allows you a lot of control over the thickness of your cut. So when you're choosing a mandolin, choose one with a sharp blade that you can remove and sharpen yourself or get a professional to sharpen. And ideally pick one with a relatively sharp julienne blade if you plan to use that. There are two main brands of mandolin that I like. The classic, every chef will know this brand, Ben Reiner, often called Watch Your Fingers, because it says watch your fingers. The other one is lesser known, but just as good, if not better, and that is Chiba. Chiba is just another company out of Japan. They make a really excellent mandolin with a blade that can be removed and sharpened. Between the two, the actual blade quality is pretty similar, and the construction quality is also very similar. So you're gonna be pretty good with either brand. Where the main difference comes in is in how they adjust. So the Ben Reiner has this big dial on the bottom, making it really easy to adjust to your thickness. So if you're gonna be adjusting on the fly a lot, that's really nice. This basic guy from the Chiba, the I'm Canadian, but I don't speak French. This guy is a smaller one, much like the mini Ben Reiner, good for travel, and also has the adjustment on the bottom. Also comes in pink, or black, or beige. Then we get into the big guys. This is the classic Ben Reiner. This is the one most of us have used in restaurants at some point in time. It also has the dial adjustment on the bottom and a pretty wide range of adjustments. The Ben Reiners also have the rubber feet on the bottom. So if you're gonna be cutting over top of a cutting board as opposed to over a bus bin, this guy is gonna be a great option. The Chiba is a little more difficult to adjust. It's got a dial on the side here. It's not too bad, it's just a bit different, but there's a few reasons why I prefer it. First of all, it's a bit wider than the Ben Reiner. So if you're doing a cabbage or you know, a grapefruit for some reason, or just big onions, you have more runway on this guy to work with, so you can cut a wider vegetable. And most importantly, with both of the Chiba mandolins, the julienne blades in here are extremely sharp. These guys come in a little cartridge, and each one of these teeth is a tiny little blade, which means you need to be a little more careful when you're using it. It also means you're gonna use a lot less pressure cutting julienne on the Chiba versus the Ben Reiner. The julienne blades on the Ben Reiner aren't really blades. They're thin pieces of steel. And so they are gonna require more force when you're pushing through them, they work pretty well, but compared to the Ben Reiner, the Chiba is effortless. I especially like using the Chiba when I'm cutting anything really dense, even some carrots. And so the sharper julienne blade, if you are doing a lot of that julienne cut, makes it really easy and really fast and really smooth. It means you don't need to use much pressure and you're gonna be safer. So when you're using a mandolin, slicing a cucumber, no big deal. Your hand's not gonna be super close to the blade. Say you're cutting something like a potato, right? You can use your bare hands on the potato, and I'm not really gonna push down at all. I don't wanna flex this plastic or this blade. I'm just pushing forward because the sharp blade needs basically no force. So I'm just sliding the potato back and forth. Kind of like grating cheese. You don't need to push into the grater if it's sharp, you just slide it along. That's why I like using a mandolin, is because that thinness and uniformity is really difficult to get with a knife. You can get it, and it's a fun way to practice your knife skills, but if you're doing that at work, your chef's gonna just scream at you. So using your bare hands on the mandolin is no problem, but you wanna pay attention, right? Maybe now's not the best time to be in the middle of a conversation with your fellow cooks or watching the TV while you work. Once you get lower down, here's where you can get into trouble. Your fingers are starting to get closer to the blade, right? And this blade is insanely sharp, so it won't hesitate to cut you if you let it. Now, my coworker Mike has a great saying, and that's, if your fingers are about to hit the blade, just stop. I have a better one. It's called use the friggin' guard. Now, I used to not use the guard on the mandolin because I thought that made me look uncool or whatever. I used to also not ride a bike helmet, right? Looking cool is great until you have brain damage. Same goes for your fingertips. So, if you waste a little bit, that can go into something. If you waste a little bit, it's better than you cutting your fingertips off. Because if you cut your fingertips, you're gonna bleed all over this, and it's all gonna go in the garbage or the compost. So you're better off taking this, and that can go into the mashed potatoes, or some soup, or, you know, you might not put potato in chicken stock, but you certainly can cabbage and onion and carrot. You can get as close as you want with your fingertips, but the closer you get to that blade and the smaller this piece of vegetable gets, the more pressure you need. The harder it is to get that forward motion, and the more the vegetable's gonna snag on the blade. And eventually, you're gonna just get your fingertips behind there too much, and you're gonna nick your thumb. Again, I know a lot of people that have done that, so just suck it up. If you gotta waste a little bit, it's fine. The guard is a great way to prevent yourself from getting cut. It's another good thing that can really help you. And that is a cut-proof glove. These are actually the Knifewear cut-proof gloves. We have our own now. And they're, I should say, they're cut-resistant. They're not cut-proof. So don't put your finger right along the blade, you know, but you can get that last little bit with a little more confidence when you're using this guy. The way to be safe with a mandolin is to have a sharp one. That is half the battle. And don't be a hero. Just, you know, when it gets close, you just don't need to get those extra 2 slices. You don't. And you can tell your chef I gave you permission not to. Yes! Yes! As far as why you want a mandolin, you know, I mentioned it before, uniformity and speed are 2 very valuable things. There's also just a lot you can do that the average person may not be able to do with their knife skills. My mom was telling me just the other day how she struggles to get julienne carrots. She can, but it takes her forever because she was never a chef. And so she was asking about getting a mandolin. And I was recommending this guy because you can get really nice small julienne carrots. She likes to make pickled carrots and daikon sometimes. Because his blade is so sharp, it's really easy. Pretty much anybody could use this guy. Maybe you don't let your kids use it. And you get like really nice fine julienne that's really delicate. Now, another thing you want to look for when you're buying a mandolin is a couple different choices of your julienne blades. You know, these guys are really nice and fine and delicate, but maybe you want something with a little more crunch. Maybe you want, you know, pickled carrots for your banh mi or just a rice bowl. You want to go a little more substantial. They make a bigger julienne blade. And they're pretty quick and easy to change too. And then, yeah, same deal. When I'm doing something like a carrot with the julienne blade, I don't go back and forth and drag it back and forth because it wants to snag on these teeth coming back the other way. So I just pick it up every time. It's pretty easy. Only takes a second to get used to. We have fine julienne and bigger julienne. One place where you could use these julienne blades is if you are vegan or you're trying to eat fewer carbs and you want to make kind of a pasta stand-in. A lot of people like to do it with zucchini. It's quite good. You cut your zucchini on really either of these julienne blades, depending on how fine you want the noodles, and throw them in a little salt, give them 20 minutes, It's gonna break open those cell walls, soften everything up, make it nice to eat raw. One nice thing about having a really sharp mandolin is you can do more delicate things. One of those dull, cheaper mandolins, you couldn't cut something delicate like a mushroom, but when the blade is this sharp, you get really nice thin sheets of mushroom, and really anything delicate like this. And, you know, maybe you want to make a little pickled mushroom to go with some beef tartare. That thin slice would be really pretty and taste really good. If you're gonna be doing cabbage, you like to make your own sauerkraut like me, or, you know, I just had a barbecue. I had 40 people over, and I had to make a lot of coleslaw. I did a couple heads of cabbage, and a mandolin was a real lifesaver in that moment because, again, like 3, 4, 5 minutes, and you've got a mountain of coleslaw, and it's no big deal, right? Easy peasy. Obviously, just watch your fingers when you get to the end. If you do want to make sure you use all the cabbage, you can bust that guard out or just use your knife to finish up the very end of it. Get some nice thin cabbage, some of your really fine julienne carrots from later, and you got a coleslaw. I had to pull this guy out because we're talking about this brand Chiba that makes these great mandolins. They also make this contraption, which I think is the best word for it. It is not a medieval torture device. It is an oscillating slicer that will do perfect katsuramuki, which is normally a cut you use usuba or a yanagiba, and you like roll a radish and cut a super thin sheet of vegetable. We are gonna give it a try because I've never used this guy. Okay. Oh! Okay, that was pretty fun. Let's see. That's awesome. Wow, that's like almost as tall as I am. So if you need a 6-foot long sheet of daikon radish and you've got like $230, I don't know, burning a hole in your pocket, you can buy that. Ah! All right, this video has gone off the rails. Thank you for tuning in and learning about mandolins. If you have thoughts from your own use about mandolins, let me know down below. I'd love to hear it. If you are looking for a mandolin, you're still concerned, you have questions that maybe I didn't get to, shoot us a comment down below. If you want to grab one of the mandolins you saw today, check out the links down below. We have the Chiba mandolins, both kinds, listed online at knifewear.com. And you can find the Ben Reiners in our physical stores in Calgary, Edmonton, Ottawa, Vancouver, and Toronto. Let us know what piece of obscure kitchen equipment we should talk about next. Thanks for tuning in, guys. No, all right.